What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 640 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to be breaking down everything we feel like talking about that happened in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days. WWE, AEW, New Japan, anything else along those lines. I'm your host as always, Tony Mango. Joining me as always are Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert E. Felice.
Hey.
And of course, all of you listening as well, you guys have the option of telling us what you think of all these different topics too. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube. While you're over there on YouTube, make sure you click on the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. Click on that like button as well for this video. Helps out quite a bit. Ring that notification bell. Pass this along with the share button. Click on the join button as well if you want to get access to the same tiers that you can see over on the Patreon. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoments, where you can find that stuff. Darkcast tier, Pick Your Poison tier, everything else like that. You got the thanks button there if you want to toss a little spare change our way. Help us keep the lights on here. And also, if you want to pick up some merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can find that. Keep in mind, you can also chat it up in the Discord that we have. If you head on over to that server, we've got the sections for all the different wrestling companies. Well, not specifically. We're not going to, have a dedicated MLW channel, but we have like the ND channel and stuff. And we have, of course, AEW, WWE. We've got even a Fanboys Anonymous section of that. Of course, if you don't know what Fanboys Anonymous is, go to fanboysanonymous.com. Check all that stuff out there. And of course, we'll come back around to this, tell you a little bit more information about that later on. But let's start getting into these hot tags. So this week I'm going to start off this way. We hadn't been getting any kind of information for the Hall of Fame yet. And now it's just a flood of information for that, as WWE has announced 4 people being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. This week, we first started off with the news of Paul Heyman being announced. Eventually, on, I think it was Wednesday, Bull Nakano was announced. And then now today, the U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham have been announced. That is quickly filling up the Hall of Fame class. We don't know how many that they're going to induct this year, but they've kind of gone back around the different groups in the past. Sometimes we've had giant classes where they've even included the Legacy Award people. Sometimes we've had a very limited amount. I know that it seems like they're doing less and less as time's going on, partially because they want to just keep the ceremony a little bit tighter. And I'm not anticipating that we're getting too many different people added to this. I'm still expecting a few more names over the course of the next week or two. But let's break down this group. Now, we will, of course, talk a little bit in more detail when we get into the Wrestling with the Past episode coming up a little bit later on this month, where we're going to try to get into some more specifics for every single person that has been announced ahead of time right beforehand. Of course, if it comes down to them waiting, and then we end up having no time to do that, then we'll kind of put the pin in that one. But generally speaking, these inductees, I think that they make a lot of sense. There's a question about whether or not Paul Heyman is the main event of the Hall of Fame or not. I'm wondering if maybe that is the case now. Who's going to induct them, all that stuff. I major thumbs up when it comes to this from my perspective before we get too deep into it. How you guys feeling?
First of all, I don't know why Paul Heyman wouldn't be the main event of the Hall of Fame. He's, by all rights, can talk for the entire 2 hours or whatever. And he has the most stories to tell, and arguably the most ties to Philly. So I'm very excited for his induction, and I think it sets the stage for a really special class.
Yeah, I think these are 3 good choices so far, and I'm sure they'll add more to it as time goes on. But yeah, there's obviously very sensible reasons for choosing all of them, and yeah, especially the Paul Heyman one, considering the Philadelphia ties and ECW. So yeah, I think there's not a bad choice out of all the ones so far. There's no Coco Beware just yet.
I am a little curious why the U.S. Express is being inducted this year, because I think we all sort of went into this assuming that Bray Wyatt was going to be posthumously inducted, and for his father to be inducted instead, or I mean, not necessarily instead. They still could induct him, but I would think that would be doubling up in a way that would be a little strange. Maybe they try to like do the video package of Bray Wyatt and then do the US Express, and then everybody can just talk once. But I would have thought that maybe that would have been, Barry Windham's already been inducted, and maybe Rotunda could be on his own or something later on, or I don't know. I'm a little bit curious about that one. Do you guys think that that's going to have any bearing on whether or not Bray is in this year, positive or negative?
Oh, I think that the only reason they're inducting them is to induct Bray. The Bray Wyatt thing is still fresh to the extent of like, I don't think about it a lot and realize, oh God, yeah, he has to go in the Hall of Fame because he's gone, and it still doesn't necessarily hit. And as soon as I saw the US Express getting inducted, I'm like, all right, so they're just inducting Bray this year, and that'll be either the next or the last announcement, and it'll be a special moment because US Express, and I think they covered it nicely because Triple H, they showed the video of Triple H calling them, and he was like, yeah, you guys were the tag team champions going into the first WrestleMania, and you guys are such a big part of that, and we'd love to honor you here. And it's just like weird because at the end of the day, the US Express was a footnote out of everything in WrestleMania 1. You kind of remember Sheik and Volkov because it's Sheik, and you remember Wendy Richter because she had Cyndi Lauper, who I think should go in the Hall of Fame this year, but
yeah,
that's every year.
That's pretty much every year, especially when they get into like New York and stuff, and where they get into like an anniversary type of WrestleMania. I'm really surprised that hasn't been a thing yet. Muhammad Ali too, for that matter.
And then I think it's beautiful. I think they'll induct Bray. It could be a family affair and a nice moment for all involved.
Who do you guys think? Okay.
I was going to say, I follow Rob's logic and presume that the reason, I'll say the reason, but one of the reasons they're probably inducting Rotunda in as part of the US Express is because Bray Wyatt will also go in at the same time. And they could do something where both the US Express and Bray Wyatt get, maybe not inducted necessarily exactly at the same time, but could both get inducted by Bo Dallas or something.
I could see maybe Bo being like the go-between, where it's kind of I had to, it popped in my head, where they kind of like, they do the video package about Bray Wyatt, and then they introduce Bo, and he kind of inducts Bray, and then he also introduces the US Express, and then they do that video package or something. But I can kind of just see one of those scenarios where maybe during the US Express thing, people are still just going like, thank you, Bray, and stuff, and then it might just throw that whole thing off. I don't know. Maybe they got a good plan in mind, or maybe they have something else in mind, but I'm hoping that Bray Wyatt gets inducted this year, at least. As far as Heyman and Nakano go, you guys think Sam Roberts is inducting Paul Nakano? I'm assuming that it's going to be either Alundra Blaze or it's Damage Control, and they do some kind of like, we're the three Japanese women that are like the high profile ones right now. She paved the way. Let's introduce her, and that kind of thing. But could go with Blaze. They have their history together.
I assume you're going with Blaze because I'd love to listen to Damage Control speak and honor Bull, but I don't know, when does WWE really cater to Japanese speaking audience? Like, they're not just going to suddenly go, okay, guys, go out there and talk in your native language about Bull Nakano. Go have fun. They've never done that, so I don't see them starting now.
But it is the first year that Triple H is taking charge of the Hall of Fame.
I said that, but like, was Vince not out last year by Mania? Or did he somehow make it to Mania?
I mean, he was back.
He was fired.
He was back in at Mania that year because the day after Mania last year, they sold the company to TKO.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So maybe that'd be super nice. I think it'd be great if they could just speak and honor her the way that they would like to.
I assume they'll go with Blaze just because she is a native English speaker. I'd be more interested to see that they'll probably have to have a translator for Nakano. So she'll probably do her acceptance speech in Japanese and have someone repeat it back to the audience.
Or maybe do one
Maybe
of those
ask
things
her to
where
do
she mostly just says, like, thank you very much and doesn't really have much of a speech, you know?
Well, it's not Muda. She can't be like, all right, thank you. Here's some mist. You know? So I'm sure there will be a speech there.
Well, they've had plenty of people in the past that don't speak English super duper well, just basically say, like, you know, they kind of like learned a few lines in English well enough and kind of practiced it and just said, like, I'm very honored and thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Yeah, they could do that. I hope that's not the case. I'd rather them just have her, like, speak in Japanese and just actually be able to say something, you know, like, translate it afterward, you know, it ain't fucking for me. To just have to be like, oh, you know, I don't understand it. No, it doesn't matter for me. But I think that that's a really cool induction. You know, Bull Nakano never really gets mentioned all that much. And when you get into the people from different eras and stuff, like, she's a name that comes up quite often as far as, like, man, you put her in a different era where they actually care. How much cooler would Bull Nakano have been to most people, you know?
Yeah, the Bull Nakano is great. I still think she's great. There's a lot of All Japan women on YouTube just in full, all the TV shows and stuff. And I think people should go out there and check it out and really appreciate the road that she paved for women in wrestling.
As far as who could induct Heyman, a couple different people for that. We could get, you know, CM Punk in this role. We could get Tommy Dreamer, maybe Rob Van Dam, maybe. Could throw in people from the bloodline if you really want to kind of do that, but I'm hoping that's not necessarily the case, because I don't want this to be Paul Heyman cuts a promo of, aren't you excited for WrestleMania? I want Paul Heyman to just be like, okay, let me just take this moment to be Paul Heyman.
I think if it has to be a worker, I think it's Punk. And I think that would be an amazing honor. I think, by the way, Lunge Blaze could do this one too. He's close with Heyman. But I think Heyman will choose for his children to give his induction speech. And like you said about Bull, like, listen, not for you, it's for him.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's them.
Yeah, that's my general rule of thumb whenever it comes to the Hall of Fame is whatever the Hall of Fame inductees want, that's what I would want them to have. Because I hate when you hear a story afterward where it's like, yeah, for instance, like Lex Luger just recently had said that if he were to be inducted, he would want Sting to induct him. And there's been instances in the past where somebody's said something like that, and then it's like, okay, WWE rejected that, and they told them they need to find somebody else. And you're like, yeah, come on, it's their induction. Unless there's like a problem, you know, like I wouldn't expect Paul Heyman to be like, I want Brock to do my induction right now. Like, you know, let the people get what they want, you know. It's not for us. It's for them.
Listen, even if Brock was in the clear, I don't think Brock is speaking for that amount of time about it anyway.
He would just be like, all right, here's Paul Heyman. Paul, say something stupid. Who do you think, Callum? Who do you think is going to get the Paul Heyman honoree kind of thing?
Well, CM Punk. Don't think there's really any other option. I'd say, unless Heyman specifically wants either his children or someone else to do it, then it will be CM Punk, because CM Punk's not going to be wrestling at WrestleMania, so they need to get him on the weekend in some fashion, and having him give the induction speech to Heyman makes the most sense, really.
So, of course, we will tap more into this. As I said, we have some more Hall of Fame discussions coming up later on this month. We've got a dark cast that we're most likely going to do of Hall of Lame, where we'll talk about some of the, worst things out there that we can induct, so to speak. We will talk about the Wrestling with the Past Hall of Fame class in full as like the lead in prior to WrestleMania week, where we get into just a constant slew of predictions for everything. And, I'm sure over the next week or so, when they announce some other people, that we'll give them a quick mention on the hot tags for next week and stuff. We'll kind of get into like one more match when we get into the Wrestling with the Past and some of our more favorite moments for these particular people and all. So stay tuned if you want more discussion on that. Let's bounce around to, let's go with a New Japan story. I know that you want to talk about your fondness of this, Callum, because it's your favorite thing that's happened this year in pro wrestling. Jack Perry joining the House of Torture.
I mean, the House of Torture is the best thing in wrestling right now. So I guess, they had their anniversary show this past week, and one of the big talking point coming out of that show is that Jack Perry defeated Shota Umino in the first round of the New Japan Cup, and then immediately afterwards was inducted into the House of Torture. And so he's now, I believe, their sole Gaijin member of the group, so non-Japanese member of the group. And it was it's something. I mean, I always try and tread a little bit lightly when talk about the House of Torture, because I absolutely hate them, and I think based on what I see on, I guess, from my circle of people that I follow on Twitter, that a large portion of the Western audience that follows New Japan hates them as well. But they are seemingly more popular with the domestic audience, so I can understand why they are so heavily featured. But right now they're just completely overbearing the entire product, and at a time when you've just lost Okada and Ospreay, and you're seemingly very reluctant to push any of your new top young stars, as Shota Umino taking the fall in this suggests, then you really shouldn't be replacing it with matches that just end in a bunch of interference and screwy finishes and ref bumps and all of that stuff. So, it's a different vision of New Japan and a different style of booking that has been for the last year or so that I'm not very on board with. But hopefully it's good for Perry's development and gives him something else to a different style and a different audience to adapt to before he potentially comes back to AEW one day.
Any thoughts on this, Rob?
Talk about a Hall of Lame, huh?
I think that maybe this is going to be one of those things that in the long run is good for Jack Perry's career, but I'm not, following New Japan all that much.
It'll be fine for Jack Perry. It's just like the general vibe of New Japan, very meh. Which I guess as a Westerner, I shouldn't care too much, because we have the good parts of what were in New Japan in AEW. It just sucks to see. I'd like all the wrestling to be thriving, and New Japan just isn't.
So we got anything else on the New Japan side of things we're talking about this week?
I mean, the New Japan Cup has started in earnest, and some of the results have been, I don't say weird, but again, a signifier of the strange booking philosophy right now. Because on that same show, you also had, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. So Toriano beat Yujiro Takahashi, which is to be expected. I mean, both of those two aren't going to win the tournament, but they just advanced anyway, so that's fine. You had, on the following night, you had Chase Owens beat Tomohiro Ishii. So, I mean, again, Tony, I know you don't watch New Japan, but you know Ishii, and you know that he is a pretty good wrestler. Chase Owens is, he's fine, but he's like nothing special, and they just had him eliminate Ishii immediately from the tournament, so he won't be going any further. And then they had Tonga Loa, who beat the holy hell out of Okada last year, and that's with those flurry of fists and strikes, advanced over the Great Okan, who's basically DOA now in terms of New Japan. I don't know, having Tonga Loa go over the Great Okan is not a really good signifier for Okan's future prospects. And David Finlay beat TJP, but David Finlay was always going to beat TJP. And yeah, I presume now he's probably going to go quite far into this New Japan Cup, but we'll have to see if he wins or not. I don't know whether him losing the Global Championship to Nick Nemeth was a signifier that he's losing upwards rather than just losing because they had a new Western guy to put a title on.
So has your opinion on who's going to win changed?
No, I still think Zack Sabre Jr. is my choice to do it, and he hasn't had his match yet. So until somehow he gets eliminated by another member of House of Torture, then I'll just assume that he's going to win.
Let's bounce over. Oh, God.
I was just going to say that's what they need because Zack Sabre Jr. is somebody who can carry New Japan right now.
He seems like he would be that next guy to focus on, at least from my outsider's perspective, yeah. Maybe somebody who pops up there, pretty soon, though, could be Mike Santana. He is gone from AEW, and of course he's going to obviously try to figure out somewhere else to go. Kevin Kelly is also gone from AEW, and different set of circumstances for the two of those. Santana and Ortiz had their big falling out. Haven't really seen much of them. Eventually they put things aside temporarily to have one match, and then it became another whole thing. And then Ortiz is still there, but Santana wants to do his own thing separately. And I am kind of assuming he probably wouldn't get picked up from WWE. And if he did, he would just go to NXT. But he might be in TNA. Could go to New Japan. Could just wrestle on the indies. The Kevin Kelly thing, a little bit more complicated, I think, to get into. But let's stick with Santana and go back around to Kevin Kelly. What do you guys think is going to happen in the future of Santana?
He'll be fine. He'll do indies. He'll do maybe TNA. He'll be fine. Maybe he doesn't make a big splash. Maybe he does. I don't know whether or not he cares, as long as he has the freedom to do what he wants. Which, respect to that. So I think it's a fucking shame. I think Kim and Ortiz not only having the falling out, but just never reaching their peak as a team is a shame. And Santana's departure kind of strikes me as one of the main ones that I'll think about when I think of the first bit of AEW and how a lot of these guys just ended up being overshadowed by more valuable names that came in. I'd throw Chuck Taylor in there. I'd throw Trent Beretta in there. And I mean, that's where the cookie crumbles, but I was hoping for a bit more from Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the relationship between Santana and Ortiz started to break down and they were no longer going to team together, the writing was on the wall for Santana, unfortunately, in a roster that has just become more and more stacked over the last couple of years with top name, main event talent, and then a solid bunch of young mid-carders underneath that as well. You have to be pretty good to push yourself forward at that. And Santana is, he's a good hand, but his value was, or his primary value at that point in time was as a tag team wrestler with Ortiz. And if he was no longer interested in doing that, then it was never really going to work out with him in AEW as a singles guy. He never really, they gave him that, gave him the opportunity, but they gave him that one chance with that feud with Ortiz, but even though that was mainly contained within Rampage, but yeah, from that point on, it seems like they didn't really have many plans or opportunities for him. There's just too many other bigger fish to fry, and so I'm good for him for deciding to move on. they're able to part ways and he can go and pursue other opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in TNA because at least he has a history there as part of LAX, so maybe he can go back as a singles guy and get some good opportunities there. There's plenty of other independents that he can go work for, appear in some GCW shows, maybe show up in MLW. New Japan is a possibility, but it just depends on how frequently he wants to go to Japan and do stuff, so we'll have to see on that front. But yeah, I think that he'll definitely get opportunities, and we'll see. It might be one of those instances where going out on the independents and having to make a name and a character for yourself, like basically off your own back, might help unlock some hidden potential that he wasn't able to utilize in AEW due to a lack of opportunities to perform.
If you had to guess, if you had the whole gun to your head scenario, where do you guys think he's going?
I'd say he's just going to freelance for a while and then maybe make appearances in TNA as part of that. But I don't think he's going to sign for a company for a little while.
What's your guess, Rob?
Rob doesn't care.
Maybe he's muted and doesn't know, or maybe he stepped aside. I don't know.
I can't say that I'm like
there we go.
the biggest fan of Santana as a single, but I think he's going to freelance. I think he'll find what he wants on the independent circuit. I think he'll show up at an MLW event in New York. I think he'll do a GCW event in New York. But as far as like a long standing home, I don't see it in the near future.
Now, the Kevin Kelly situation, from what I gather, because I was a little bit confused about whether this even came out, it seems like Kevin Kelly was gone for a little while for AEW. And that Ian Riccaboni had been, just filling in the void for him. We've seen Riccaboni all over the place in AEW for the ROH stuff anyway. So that it's not like he was just brought in specifically for that function.
Hold on.
Is that different?
What are you talking about? Calvin, when's the last time Riccaboni was on Collision?
I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, you have it wrong. He was on Collision.
Wasn't he a part of the ROH stuff?
Riccaboni?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, but he had nothing to do with Kevin Kelly and Collision.
No, I'm saying like he wasn't just brought in like completely out of the blue. He's been a part of the AEW thing with ROH.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like he's like they just brought a random guy like, suddenly.
But he's not replacing him.
What are you
getting
trying
to figure out why you're talking about Riccaboni?
Well, because there's a good reason for mentioning Riccaboni. Is essentially, if you don't mind me taking.
No, go ahead.
So essentially, the reason behind Kevin Kelly's firing, or at least by the report from PW Torch, is that he put out a tweet suggesting that Riccaboni was gaslighting him. I guess is a good phrase for it.
Bad mouthing him, or basically
putting out rumors.
He said that Ian libeled him.
Libel.
Putting out
which is through I guess those Discord messages that came out where Ian had basically said that he was a bit let down by Kevin Kelly because Kevin Kelly was pushing the whole, what was the name of that movie that everybody was all up in arms about? It's about saving kids, and it was somehow linked to QAnon.
That's an element to this. I don't know.
Sound of Silence. That
was like an element to this. Jeez.
Yes. So that Kevin Kelly had been like reporting that on his private Facebook. It kind of got out there. People were talking about it on Twitter. Ian had said something, and I think it was the VOW Discord, about how he had kind of been disappointed by Kevin Kelly all around, and how much it sucked. Ever since then, it was kind of like, Kevin Kelly started openly talking about potentially suing for libel. And then he went on this whole Twitter rant last weekend about, sitting on the sidelines because of what happened. And now he's gone. And I want to just say that I think it sucks. I thought Kevin Kelly was great for a long time. I don't know anything about his personal beliefs. I don't know anything about, I'm not going to comment on whether or not, there's any ongoing legal issue, but sucks all around, Ian's a good dude. I thought Kevin was a good dude. It sucks that it comes to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty bad situation all round. You have to go some distance to get fired in AEW.
Seems like
as we've seen over the years. So it's clear that, fundamentally, just from what I've seen of Kevin Kelly in Collision, and don't get me wrong, I thought Kevin Kelly did a great job in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I don't take away from his commentary work there, but it never fit in AEW. I don't think that he I don't know. I'd say I can't speak for the guy, but he gave me the impression early that he didn't really know the people that he was commentating on. Didn't seem like he was doing a good amount of research, at least not to the level of someone like Excalibur, who's very, very well versed in pretty much everyone that's performing in AEW or anyone that's coming into AEW as well. I think that he didn't have good chemistry with Nigel McGuinness in Collision. I think that Tony Schiavone being parachuted in was already a bad sign for his long-term prospects. I think that if there is this kind of animosity between Riccoboni and Kevin Kelly, Riccoboni is by far the better prospect. So if you basically it's either one or the other, then you side with Riccoboni in this instance. So I think that it's a real shame for Kevin Kelly, because the reason why he left New Japan in the first place to come to AEW is because he didn't want to be spending months upon months in Japan and leave his wife at home, and so he wants to go back and be closer to her. And so it means that he's now out of a job, but presumably can't go straight back into New Japan, because New Japan now have a new commentary team with Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton taking over that.
Former Smark moment writer Walker Stewart, always going to put that out there.
And he obviously wouldn't go back to there anyway if the whole reason for him leaving was that he didn't want to spend months in Japan anyway. So I guess he'll be looking for other opportunities to potentially pop up. I don't see him going to WWE.
No, I would assume not.
Just because of this thing, he's definitely not taking obviously Michael Cole's slot, and presumably you've got Big Joseph waiting in the wings eventually, seemingly, for his call up to the main roster. I assume at some point they might be able to convince him to do it. But yeah, and as someone who's a bit like an older hand now, it might be more difficult to get into that area. Maybe, TNA have a established guy in. It's not Todd Phillips anymore, but it's Tom Phillips, but whatever his name is now.
His name is Hannafin.
Yeah,
Tom Hannafin. And he's a solid commentator. MLW's got Matt Striker, so there is potential for upgrade there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think that he will find opportunities to do commentary, because he is a very established name. But I think he might take a backseat for a little while, at least until all of this kind of blows over, because we don't know what the fallout is. We've only known that he's been fired from the report today, and there hasn't been any official announcement from AEW, but he has been removed from the roster page, so you can assume that he has been let go. But yeah, a sucky situation, but I think that, I don't know, it feels like the writing's been on the wall for this one for a couple of months anyway.
Kind of does. And, without knowing the backstage stuff, of course, we can't talk about that being in any kind of official capacity or whatever. But, sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll have to see where he ends up next. It could end up being something outside of pro wrestling, too. Plenty of people that have done commentary and announcing work and everything show up as, all right, their new gig is that they're doing, a soccer thing or baseball or football or whatever. Kevin Patrick, of course. People in like the MMA field. You got people that, Todd Pettengill, like way more into, I believe it's baseball. So you might end up seeing Kevin Kelly elsewhere. Isn't that where he's more into?
Todd Pettengill was just a radio DJ.
I thought he got into baseball.
No, you're thinking of Shivani when he quit wrestling.
Maybe I'm just mixing people together. Urge to merge, I don't know. But, it is something that we could see Kevin Kelly popping up in commentary outside of pro wrestling, or he could be, for all we know, somebody that ends up being the new voice of some promotion or doing Explosion in TNA or something. I don't know. Well, this is not a firing from AEW, but it's a suspension. We can talk about this Sammy Guevara situation where he had his match with Jeff Hardy. I think we had talked about the injury. Maybe we didn't yet. Did we talk about that on Hot Takes last week?
That had to be like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at this point.
If we didn't, what happened is you could see clips on this online. The Sammy Guevara and Jeff Hardy incident was, Sammy Guevara lands on Jeff Hardy, breaks his nose. Match continues for a little bit, and because of that, Sammy Guevara has been suspended. And there's been some chatter online about why isn't the referee suspended as well? Because the referee should have been able to call the match to just be ending right then. Some people pointing out that maybe that was the case and Sammy still just did something anyway. All the kind of chutzpah around that stuff. I don't know who's right, who's wrong or whatever, but the match should have ended. And I think that they could have done that a lot better, all parties involved.
I think the confliction comes in with, from what I've heard or seen anyway, is that after the move that seemingly concussed Jeff Hardy, that the call from the referee was to go to the finish. And then But the idea is that can be misinterpreted potentially between saying just pin the guy or go to the finish, and the finish of that match was Sammy Guevara wins with the GTH. And he did hit the GTH, which is obviously a move to the head. It's considered to be dangerous, but I think that it's one of those instances where I don't think they would suspend him unless there was at least enough reason to say that you were at fault for this, or you should have known better.
I think the idea being you should have known better. Why did you go for the move? Look, I watched the clip a couple times. I don't think he comes anywhere near him with the GTH. Wasn't he got him right on the, he didn't get him right on the nose. Just and aggravate the already established injury. I think it's a case of, by the way, I saw a lot of people trying to dissect. The referee said this. You can't hear him. You don't know. You're in the ring. I saw the referee said whatever he said. Jeff pushed off Sammy, went for the twist of fate like he was supposed to. Sammy just did the finish. They went right into the finish like he thought it was supposed to go. It wasn't okay, there's a clear problem here. It's a heat of the moment thing. I think he probably got suspended because it's come on, man. Did you really have to do that? But I think these things kind of happen. It's unfortunate. It's not like he's going to be out here saying, yeah, I got Jeff Hardy. It's no, it's just an unfortunate situation. And unfortunate for him as well.
With the amount of things that keep happening with and revolving around Sammy Guevara, there could be a part of this that's sort of just all right, look, maybe in this scenario, you can excuse that, but then after enough instances, people are calling for the suspension and just kind of all right, you've built up enough bad will that I gotta pull the trigger on this. Kind of the way in the opposite has when some people get nominated for a bunch of Oscars and it's their best roles, they get to where they lose, and then eventually they just win an Oscar on something that's not all that important because people are well, it's about time we just give it to them. It could be that this isn't necessarily as much about this particular incident and more so the perpetual revolving door of issues that are around Sammy Guevara. And then Tony Khan just might have felt like, all right, this is getting to be too much. I'm just going to suspend you for this to try to wake you up out of, can we stop having all these issues that happen? Which at this point, I mean, I think we need to keep Sammy Guevara away from the Hardys, because it's just, there's something in the universe that doesn't like that. This is what, the fourth injury that's happened in relation to Guevara and a Hardy?
We might not have to worry about at least one of them pretty soon, because Matt Hardy recently said on, I don't know if it was on his podcast or something on Veiled, but his contract with AEW expires in a month. So
you don't just assume that they're going to sign a new deal?
I mean, I wouldn't. Especially with the sort of money he's putting around for certain other people. I think maybe it's time you get the Hardys off that roster.
I don't think they're going anywhere.
I don't know. I mean, it's weird because we've seen, like for instance, the talking point for this week has been Kazuchika Okada is basically getting $4.5 million a year, which is like, that's an absurd amount of money. Good for fucking Okada to get that, But then we've seen instances in the past where like some people that seem like they're quote unquote in the AEW family are still not re-signed. And for like a fact that Tony Khan's like, man, I want the Hardy Boys in my promotion, but they haven't really been the Hardy Boys. And from the very start, Matt Hardy has had no success in AEW. Like, everything that Matt Hardy has been involved in has been at best okay, I guess, but it's mostly been a lot of like, this promo wasn't good. That feud was terrible. That this faction's garbage. Like the track record for Matt Hardy in there is not great, and Jeff Hardy has been having his issues as well. So if I were Tony Khan at this point, I probably would be like, unless I could get them really cheap, I'm letting them go. What else are they going to do in AEW? They're really going to turn them around and really become like the face of the tag team division? I don't think so at this point.
Yeah, they're just a nostalgia pop.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's kind of diminishing at this point in time, because they can't. They can do some semblance of what they used to be able to do in the ring, but it's very far from it. It's a shadow of that impression. So you know what? Go back to WWE.
Yeah,
they could definitely use you.
Get your Hall of Fame spot, and then sign a Legends contract, and God knows what Rebby Hardy wants to do in the future with her a quest for a reality TV show. Speaking on that Okada thing, though, $4.5 million, man.
That happens when you're friends with the EVP.
Newest member of the Elite. It's a storyline. Yeah. It's one of the big stories going out of Dynamite this week.
That was a very cool moment, just to have the Bucks come out and then they immediately suspend Adam Page from the Elite. Has to be said, not from AEW at this point, but presumably he won't be appearing in AEW for a little while because of attacking the referee and having to deal with some things outside of wrestling right now. But yeah, and then firing Kenny Omega from the Elite for not making any of his dates recently for no good reason. And then Kingston comes out because he's had some issues with the Bucks, or there's been kinds of promos that are anti the Bucks recently, and so he comes out, tries to attack them, they low blow him and set him up for the EVP trigger, coin drops. Okada still got his music, which is the best thing. It's like, yeah, he needs to keep that music. I was worried that was just like a New Japan thing that they own that music, but it turns out he's got the music, or at least Khan's bought the rights to the music, so gets to come out and do it. And then immediately turns on Kingston, joins up with the Bucks. He's now part of a heel faction. It's a rare thing for AEW to bring someone in like this big new star and then immediately turn them heel. They usually at least goes for let's ride the wave of the crowd excited that this person's here for a while, and then maybe turn them heel if that's the direction. But no, just went straight into it, which is awesome because as someone who has been following Okada for a long time in New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's nice to see a changing character for him. Just immediately to go from being, just like the main guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling, like just the face of the company, and a very just like, I'll say benevolent guy, but very kind of just like, this is my company. I'm the head of this. I'm the ace of this promotion, and if you want to be the top guy, you have to go through me. So just immediately come in and just be like an absolute dick, and like realize that he's like the big money star of AEW right now, and aligning himself with the Bucks, and immediately targeting the Continental Crown, which I assume he'll win at Dynasty.
I believe, not to spoil anything, if you haven't read the Collision spoilers, but I believe he'll go for it at Super Card of Honor because they've got something else for Dynasty.
What do you think's going on for Dynasty?
Well, earmuffs, children, if you don't want to be spoiled. It's going to be the Bucks and Okada against Kingston, Pac, and Penta.
Oh, I thought that's happening next week at Big Business.
Oh, is that is that Big Business?
I think it's Big Business, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm an idiot. You guys can tell I'm very much not here today. No, that's then fuck it. Okada Dynasty. I'm all for it. Actually, no, I take that back. You should win it at Super Card of Honor because there's nobody on the Ring of Honor roster worthy of challenging for those titles. So put Okada over, Billy.
But either way, whichever show it happens, I hope it does happen in Dynasty, even though it would be a big match for Super Card of Honor. Dynasty, with the couple of matches they're teasing right now, it's looking like, okay, take Revolution and just try and add to it a little bit, just trying to sprinkle a little bit more on top of that. Obviously, take out the Sting retirement and just add banger match after banger match instead. But I think that, this is a really good position for Okada to come in and immediately establish himself as like a big name player. And I am very happy for him to get the amount of money that he is supposedly earning from AEW. First of all, I think it's good. I know people, there's like immediately people just hand waving people that are always just going to hate every single thing that they can twist into being an anti-AEW narrative of saying, oh, it's way too much money. He's not going to move business enough to justify that amount of money. And I think my kind of response to that is, well, first of all, you're worth as much as someone's willing to pay for you. It's not. Well, I assume Okada probably would have gone in for this and out, and then if Tony Khan's willing to say, "Oh yeah, sure," then of course you're going to take it.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame fucking Okada for being like, what's he going to do? Be like, no, go only give me 1 million instead or something.
Yeah, I'm not really a 4.5 million guy. Come on.
But I don't blame Tony Khan for it either, because I think we probably should all be in agreement, and I hope that we'd be in agreement that wrestlers should earn more money. At least if you're working for the top two promotions, you probably should be earning more money for putting your body on the line in the way that they do.
I'll go a step further and just say everybody who is working their ass off for a job period should probably be earning more money right now.
That's basically what I was just going to say. Everybody should be making more money. And all the people that are these billionaires should just give it the fuck up and stop. When you start getting those statistics where you hear like, if you've earned... I forget what it was. It sounds spit some numbers out. It might not be right, but it was something like if you earned $100 a day from like the time of the fucking revolution or whatever, you wouldn't come close to what Bezos is or something. And it's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Come on. You got more money than, to quote Alex Trevelyan from Goldeneye, we have more money than God. It's like, you can fucking spend $4.5 million if you're a billionaire, But
it's also like what the signal that this sends out across the wrestling landscape as well, because now that we somewhat know what Okada's earning, I don't know who leaked that information or what the purpose of doing it was.
I believe it was Tokyo Sports.
Yeah, Tokyo Sports was one that reported it, which I assume there's the reason why they would do that is because like they probably all the Japanese media in New Japan have probably said to them, yeah, make this guy look as bad as possible on his way out. But I think that it's interesting because we don't know where that positions Okada in terms of the AEW totem pole of the highest earners. We can assume he's one of the highest earners, but we don't know if he's the highest earner. So does that mean there's someone who's on? I presume that's like people in the elite, maybe, or like Omega and the Bucks are probably earning more than that.
Probably Jericho.
I was thinking Jericho.
Yeah, because Jericho. Yeah, because Jericho. I think Dave Meltzer said recently, and again, just take whatever you want from that, but that Jericho's the highest earner in AEW. So if that's more than like $4.5 million a year, then clearly Tony Khan's willing to sling the money around. And what does that kind of say for people in, let's say, WWE, for instance, the fact that Okada, by this account, is earning more money than probably everyone except about 4 or 5 people in WWE? Like, does that mean that it kind of sets a new perspective for those wrestlers who, when renegotiating their contract, saying, well, this guy's earning this much, so you should be paying me this much, at least this much, if not more? Your likes of, obviously not your top guys like Reigns, who's probably earning huge amounts, Cena when he comes in, Orton, people of that ilk probably earning loads, like similar, if not more. But then your guys like Seth Rollins, your Drew McIntyres, who apparently still hasn't signed a contract, your like upper guys that are in and around the world title scene every now and again, like they must be thinking, okay, so this is where the bar is now.
This is where Sheamus and
yeah.
Well, I assume Sheamus didn't earn that much. We don't know about Claudio, but like
that also creates a little bit of a bidding war in that kind of sense, because some people are going to then think that they are worth that, and then they're going to get a real big shock when it ends up being not remotely close to what they get offered.
Well, that's the other option. That's the other issue as well, because I think that, and again, I've been saying this for a little while, but I'm sure other people are alongside that AEW should probably start to shut up shop in terms of hiring new people. They've got a lot of talent right now, and they can't give everyone opportunities. And if they are kind of, I don't think they'll go on like a complete and total hiring freeze, but if they decide to scale back acquisitions, then that means there's no real competition, or there's no real incentive for WWE to offer people significantly amount more, because AEW might not take them. So, like, let's say if I was an AEW, I wouldn't be that interested in taking a guy like McIntyre or Rollins.
Sasha. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I assume that Mercedes is probably high up in terms of earning as well.
Let me tell you something. She's bringing something that not even Okada is. She is the entire star of that women's division right now.
Although a talking point that's happening already is she's already said, like, well, I'll be back in WWE at some point.
Yeah.
Hold on. No, for God's sake, like, let that shit go, because, like, I think that's great that she's honest and is like, yeah, I haven't had my last WrestleMania yet. That there's nothing wrong with honesty, guys. Not you guys, the idiots.
I mean,
I can see both.
There's sometimes there's something wrong with honesty. Like, I say, again, I know you always push forward, especially Tony, about say what you mean. So
transparency for sure.
Yeah, be transparent. And so I understand the transparency, but fucking hell, you haven't even come into the company yet, and you're already saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to WWE one day." Just be like, keep it to yourself sometimes. Like, have a sense of, like, have a brain between your ears for a second and realize the words that you're saying. It's like, oh yeah, this is just a stopgap thing for me. It's like. I know where my real home is.
Yeah, it very much comes off like, instead of saying, oh, the door's always open and you never know what the future has in store, I'm really excited to be in AEW, but, who knows if eventually I walk back in, maybe we have a cross-promotional thing. Like, there's ways to get around it. This very much comes off as like, I'm going to make a shit ton of money, go here, be a big star, and then in 2 years or 3 years or whatever, WWE is going to come crawling back, and I'm going to go back there and finish my career there. And I mean, that might be her goal. It might be that she said this in a way that that's not her goal, and that's just a misinterpretation, but that's what it comes off as. So it's like, God damn, you're just setting up that you're going to AEW, and now I mean, all three of us are, if anybody's listening to this and they don't, for some reason, know this about us, all three of us are very much like, this tribalism shit's ridiculous. And, you know, if something sucks, it sucks. If something's great, it's great. Doesn't matter where it is. But, like, the anti-AEW crowd they got a thing that they can latch onto here for now. It'd be like, yeah, see, she's even bad-mouthing it immediately before she can get into there. And, of course, the anti-WWE crowd's, you know, going to go against that in their way and twist things around too. But, like, not the best way to be advertising that you're popping up in the company to be like, yeah, you know, I'm going there, but, you know, I'll leave.
It's not necessarily going to endear you to the AEW hardcore straight away by saying that. Oh yeah, like I'd say it's not necessarily bad mouthing AEW. It's just saying that she has ambitions to go back to WWE one day, and that's not necessarily like as Rob says. It's not necessarily like a bad thing. It is honesty, but it's a case of it demonstrates that her window in AEW will be limited. It's not like she's going to come in and potentially end her career in AEW, because that's clearly not what her goal is.
Yeah, certain people just feel like they probably will never leave. And yeah, I mean, some of them, of course, like it seemed like that could have been the case for some other people. Then they pop up elsewhere. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily imagined that. I mean, obviously Cody Rhodes was a big thing. Like, I wouldn't have pictured Brian Pillman Jr. or, you know, whatever. But like, Jade Cargill gave off the impression quite early that it was like, she's probably going to leave and go to AEW, go to WWE, I mean. And this is not a great look for Mercedes and AEW.
So, like, the reason I say it's fine is that doesn't stop her from coming into AEW and making sure to elevate the industry. Look at Cody Rhodes, who did say all the shit and smash the throne, and is now like the best babyface WWE's had since John Cena. Like, sometimes you just gotta be transparent, and you can help the industry and still say, yes, but I would like one more Madison Square Garden. Maybe she gets that in AEW. Maybe her experience is so great that she doesn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, you can't fault the woman for answering a question that she was asked. That's just the way I look at it, at least.
Sticking on the AEW side of things, rounding that out, I guess. Thoughts on the new set? We already talked about the new logo.
Well, okay. I love elements of it. I love the colors. I love the tunnels. I hate the fact that everything's getting LED and very WWE. But I guess if that's just the way things are progressing, I'll have to get over that.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the first, I didn't really like the whole super LED aesthetic, because I just thought it was, as I said, it's not necessarily that WWE's wrong for having it, but it's too similar to what WWE have, and I was hoping for something a bit more toned down. But I do like the tunnels are back. I like the color aesthetic. The new theme song's good. So yeah, I think that the overall presentation is strong, and it's taking like elements from their past, but also taking it into a slightly different direction. So yeah, I'm overall a fan of the set.
I've never been a big fan of the tunnels.
Why?
First off, it makes it seem like backstage they've got two locker rooms. One's labeled heels and one's labeled babyface.
What's wrong with that?
Why would you be like, I'm going to go to the bad guy group? Like, you know, it seems like if I'm going to get changed, I'm going to get changed in the men's locker room or the women's locker room, not in the villainous asshole locker room.
But it's one of those like, it's one of those only like one of those like tropes in for AEW. It's like wrestling. It's like similar to how the good guy cowboys would always wear white and the bad guy cowboys would always wear black. So like, you got dressed in the morning, so like, oh, this makes you look like an asshole. It's like that's so. I guess that's their little thing, and as I say, it doesn't make real logical sense, but it's just a thing that stands out as different about them that doesn't really hurt the overall presentation of things.
It is different from WWE, so the more things that they do that makes them stand out a little bit different, like, I'm down for that. It's not going to be, there's no part of me that's like, fuck AEW, they got tunnels, I'll never watch this show. Like, it's not like that kind of thing.
No, it's not even the case that you have to like it, but like you can appreciate the fact that it is different, and so whether you don't like it or you do like it, it's a case of, well, that's something that they use to differentiate themselves.
Yeah, so. It's just I always thought it's funny that it's like, oh man, like Swerve came out of the babyface tunnel and Prince Nana came out of the heel tunnel and whatever, and like they got to meet up backstage at the tweener tunnel, and if I did AEW heel and face turns, the people on the website would go absolutely ballistic with the amount of did they just turn, and I'd be like, I'd probably have an aneurysm.
We're all based on the tunnels. You know which one it is, because
but then I'd have to watch the tunnels every time and be like, did they come out of the left or the right? Which one's the one? And I'd be like, Yeah,
but I still think it's a great storytelling device, and it's just a cool look. Like, that's what I like the most about Dynamite right now. It's a very cool look. It finally has its own aesthetic compared to Collision, compared to Rampage. I thought it was a very positive overhaul aesthetically.
Not a huge fan of the new theme, but whatever, I skip it most of the time, or like it's in the background, while I'm like doing something else, because the intro is not something I'm like, I gotta sit down and watch the intro for any of these shows. I couldn't tell you the fucking theme of Raw or SmackDown like off the top of my head. I miss the days when I used to really, really like the intros to a lot of them, though. Some of them are really, really catchy, and this current era it's not for any of them for me.
That's the way I feel about things overall. Like video game intros, gone. Good show intros, mostly gone. Add some character back. That's why I like AEW. They've kept the character for the most part.
I mean, admittedly, I say I don't really watch too many of the shows from start to finish anymore. But the last SmackDown theme I remember is the "Are you ready for a good time?" which was terrible. But it's just like, get stuck in your head. So I presume they've had at least one, if not two, themes in between that time. I have no idea what the Raw theme is right now.
Not good is what it is.
And NXT, I just presume, is still like one of the ones they used to have in the NXT Black and Gold era.
They jump straight into the show, don't they?
They pretty much do. The last theme I remember them having was the Wally song, Down South. I think it's the name of it, which I really like. That one's catchy as all shit. Like, I just listen to that on a regular basis as it is. But I don't remember the last time that they actually had that playing, because they usually just, by the time like I turn on all these things and I'm like, usually I'm like eating dinner or something and I'll have that on the background. I'm more familiar with the beginning of NXT being a shot of Mariska Hargitay looking upset than anything else, because it's just like Law and Order just leads into that, and it's just, producer Dick Wolf, welcome everybody to NXT.
Well, that's also the intro to Raw, if we're gonna.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just that person's gonna walk and they're gonna do something terrible in the future again. I know. Sad music. Welcome everybody to Monday Night Raw. The rare instances where like I hate fucking TMZ and you hear like that kind of thing that they do and all that shit. I try to tune a lot of that out. So some of the background things too, when it comes to like the interstitials from SmackDown and all, if you played a split second of it, I could probably sing the rest of it. But now that I'm trying to think of what it is, I don't know what it is offhand, because it's just such muzak at this point. But I miss the good ones, like the intro to Raw used to be a lot of fun, and I liked the old Dynamite theme better than this current one.
I like this one better. Again, matter of perspective.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong when it comes to that. Dominik Mysterio got booed at his own wedding.
Yeah,
it's great.
Dick.
I saw. I forget who it was. Somebody posted something on here. Maybe see if I can find it off the top of my head. There was a thing on Twitter where somebody was like, referencing that they couldn't see Rey Mysterio in any of the clips. And they're like, the father-daughter dance, or that father-daughter dance, total opposite of that. The Dominik Mysterio and his mom, the dance. Somebody had left a comment. They were like, man, Ray's not in here at all. What a deadbeat dad. I love that they are just even going into this with this. Dom is one of those guys that, like, when he first came in, I was like, man, they're going to give Dom a role, and I don't know. Let's see if he improves. And he's improved so much, and he's become one of my more favorite characters. And then when you get the outside stuff and the clip recently of him being attended to backstage from Rhea and the chop that he took from Gunther, and then he's all like, stop filming me. Go get me some tendies. I fucking love Dom. He's great. Congrats to him for his wedding. I didn't even know that was supposed to be like a thing going on right now.
Yeah. Just congratulations to Dominik, and yeah, I don't really know what else to add on top of that beyond the fact that, like, I wonder if I assume it won't have any impact on the Rhea storyline because it's a character thing, so it's different. You should treat those things differently, but yeah, I imagine it's not going to be the same as like the Lana and Rusev situation.
Oh, you mean like when WWE was like?
But yeah, well, it's like, you're supposed to be separate. You're supposed to be separated and not be together anymore. So that then you announce, actually, getting married, and they decided, we have to then just pivot the whole story and get you two back together on TV instead. Like, they can be married in real life but still be separated on TV. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's character.
That's the difference between like being characters and being real human beings outside of TV.
Yeah, Dominik Mysterio is in some kind of a relationship with Rhea Ripley, but Dominic Gutierrez is not in a relationship with what is her name? Emmy Bennett. Yeah.
Yeah.
So different story. I mean, if that would be a whole nother hot tag. But yeah, congrats to Dom for that. And switching over to another just kind of oddball topic. Check out the most recent fan tracks over on fanboysanonymous.com for a live in the sense of watching it for the first time, watch along of John Cena's new movie, Ricky Stanicky. For anybody who's interested in that on the crossover side of things. It's kind of following in the footsteps of Vacation Friends and John Cena being John Cena in almost every single role that he's ever been. Got a chance to watch that last night, so I don't want to spoil too much about it. Go ahead and check out the movie. Check out the Fan Tracks podcast over there. But general thumbs up.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I've been singing some of the jizz jams just in general.
Since you are not you as big of a movie fan, and I assume you're probably not going to check this out, Callum. Overhearing Rob say he's been singing jizz jams, what do you think he's talking about?
Isn't there a thing of like there is a thing called jizz music?
Well, there is for Star Wars. Is
yeah, because that's the band, isn't it? That's the band.
Yeah,
isn't it, that plays
the Cantina.
The Cantina, yeah. That's
for some
music,
fucking reason, George Lucas thought it would be a good idea to call that music jizz music, which is like, dude, you didn't think about that for a split second, did you?
Oh, he definitely thought about it.
You think that's just making himself pop? He's like, yeah, exactly. All these nerds are going to call this jizz.
But yeah, I have no idea what he's referring to with John Cena thing. I thought Ricky Stanicky was an R-Truth character.
No, you're thinking of Pretty Ricky. Different guy.
You should watch the movie and find out what the jizz jams are all about.
Oh, good. I won't.
If you've heard about jock jams, it's a different story. Let's go to NXT Roadblock. Is there anything on Raw to talk about? I don't think so. Probably. There usually isn't. It sounds so kind of the Diarrhea Dwayne thing.
Oh yeah, we took a little bit about that. Especially probably took a little bit about SmackDown as well, with like The Rock's appearance on there and just doing basically a bridge, spending the first 45 minutes. of the show, just them two talking, him and Roman. And
I've heard good and bad responses to the SmackDown thing. Some people are like, man, this was such a great promo. Other people are like, the fuck you spend the first hour of this show just saying nothing. And
which resulted in then, was it Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton getting 3 minutes to have their match?
Like maybe just cut some of these things.
Welcome back, Naomi. Yeah, welcome back, Naomi. Losing 3 minutes to
the Attitude Era is back. What do you mean? 3-minute Diva matches?
Yeah.
Rock talked for an hour? That's not attractive to you, Calvin? You don't want to watch WWE?
Well, I know what isn't attractive either is Seth Rollins calling him Diarrhea Dwayne. So I don't like to bury this group because I quite like these guys, but like Wrestle Talk coming onto their podcast afterwards, and then one of the hosts pushing the idea that was intentionally bad.
Oh, come
on!
Oh,
he's being lame on purpose because they're trying to push the idea that The Rock's lame now, so we're going to give him a lame name that he would give to other people, like the Cody Crybaby stuff. As like going, yeah, no, this is just. I mean, okay, let's say you were going for that. Does it actually make Seth look cool or smart? No, it doesn't. It makes him look even like he just gets worse and worse and worse with every single passing week of this feud. And then ending Raw with like him running to try and help out Cody, or was it Cody or Jay? Probably both of them afterwards. And then Drew McIntyre just looking at him saying like, "What the fuck are you doing? I'm fighting you for the World Heavyweight Championship." He's basically saying to Rollins, "Take me seriously," rather than probably what I would be doing, which is like, okay, distract yourself, get beaten up by The Rock and the Bloodline and all that other stuff, and then I'll just pick your bones at WrestleMania. No, he actually wants Rollins to treat his role as champion seriously. So I guess that's the direction they kind of go, where Rollins has his attention split between these two feuds that he's in. And then yeah, and the big real besides Diarrhea Dwayne, the big part of that promo segment was basically, hey, watch SmackDown on Friday, because we'll actually give the answer to the question that was asked in the first place.
I hate when they drag this kind of stuff out like that in so many different ways, because it's like, it's obvious why they do it is because they want to drag it out. Like there's no other means around this. They are like, well, The Rock is only on SmackDown, so we can't do anything that really accomplishes anything in the meantime. Let's just have people say the equivalent of, I'm going to challenge you to then accept the challenge, and then next week we will come back around to it and we'll get 5 segments out of one thing. But man, we fucking spent 55 minutes between bell to bell on Elimination Chamber for a match to be hinted at, and then a segment on Raw, and then a segment on SmackDown, and then a segment on Raw, then we're going to get another segment on SmackDown. You're going to have 5 fucking segments out of, how about a tag match? God damn, man. Like, it drives me crazy. And all the more reason why I've been just recording SmackDown lately and starting to watch it at like 20 after 9 and then skipping through a lot of this, because it's like, it's a lot easier for me to watch a half hour's worth of what actually matters on SmackDown than to spend 2 hours dedicated to all these commercials and recaps and the progressive smack of the week and the final bell screw you KFC moment of the week, or I don't know what the hell they do. But that drove me crazy. And you know, then you get into things like, hey, Zion Quinn's back on TV. Oh, he's dead.
Yep. Talk about that shit. That sucks.
Zion Quinn gets called up to the main roster and immediately disappears for the entire year. And then he comes back and he's like, hey, I shaved and I eat 1 spear and lose. Why haven't they just fired the guy?
Because he is Samoan and a bloodline member might get injured. But we can make it work.
This was like such a blah episode of SmackDown in my mind. And it wasn't even worth it for The Rock's promo, because I don't think that The Rock's promo was all that great. And then you follow up with Diarrhea Dwayne, and Diarrhea Dwayne is so lame. It's like the Suffer and Succotash type shit.
So I think that the promo from The Rock was fine. If everyone else on the roster can now say, "Hey, crackheads," because like, why can he use that language and they can't? Why is it intentionally made to be like, he's so much cooler than you guys? Our roster sucks. Why is that? I don't get it. You know? But I think a tag match at Mania Night 1 is actually pretty good. Cool for Rollins, cool for everybody. By the way, with these two matches, Roman's going to beat Hogan's record, and he'll now be the most WrestleMania main events ever.
Oh, because he will have 2 more for this, and then I'll put him over? That's cool.
Yep. So he really is just that guy, but no, I think it'll be good. And I like the fact that there's stakes to the tag match. I think no matter what, Rock would be involved in the second night, but we'll see. It's not as good as it should have been, but it's better than the garbage they almost gave us.
That's a good way of putting it, because we were talking about this probably just, the episode prior to that or something, about the idea of like the tag match needs stipulations attached to it. And they basically did what we were talking about. And I think the best case scenario, all of this crap should not have played out like this. They should have known way prior whether The Rock was going to do anything. They should have booked something different. They should have given Cody the belt last year, like all these other kind of things that we've talked about. But ignoring like Rock should have been maybe special enforcer or, any of these other kind of things that they could have done. They made their bed. They got to sleep in it. Having the bloodline rules potential or the bloodline banned from ringside is the best case scenario, because I am assuming, and of course we'll get more into this in the next few weeks, maybe things change or whatever. And I think that we're in disagreement about this, Rob. I am assuming that Rock and Roman win the first night. And night 2 is, well, it's bloodline rules, no DQ. They can fuck around and it's going to not have to do the whole ref bump thing. And we get like Jimmy Uso comes out and Jey Uso helps out Cody, and Solo comes out, and maybe like, I don't know, Orton or somebody or whatever helps out in that end, and The Rock tries to do something. Maybe The Rock turns on Roman or whatever. My fingers are crossed that is like the setup for like, man, Cody lost the first night. How is he going to win night 2? And then it ends up with Cody as champion, whether The Rock turns on Roman or not. Or he did say like, there's nobody out there. There's no one man that can offset me. Maybe it's Triple H. Maybe it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Maybe it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Maybe it's John Cena. Maybe it's all of them. And it's just like this big menagerie of all these guys coming in to be like, hey, like Austin's got his feud with The Rock, and Triple H is there to be like the boss that keeps things in control, and Cena gets some revenge on Solo, and like maybe they can pull that kind of thing off or whatever. But I'm crossing my fingers that the setup is Rock and Roman win the first night, and then Cody's up against the wall night 2, but then he ends up coming out on top. It's just like we're bouncing around, dragging our asses to confirm some of these story elements, but hey, they're killing time. But Diarrhea Dwayne is not a good way of getting around to that. And this whole Rollins aspect of this is the worst part of it. He shouldn't be involved. I think that they should have just cut their losses with the Rollins element of it. They wanted to do Cody challenging Rollins to just like, we'll just waste the Royal Rumble and do that and whatever, and then we'll fucking come back around to this. It was a bad idea. They got bit in the ass, and then they should have just had him be like, yeah, no, I'm challenging Roman, and then Rollins shouldn't have been involved in this whatsoever. Diarrhea Dwayne is not going to catch on and be like the big, like,
Unless it
gotcha.
catches on ironically. You know, like people are like, it's so bad, but I'm going to keep saying it because I'm trying to be funny.
I kind of have a feeling that maybe somebody's going to try to start that chant tonight, and Rock's going to end up having a good enough response that people are just never going to mention it again.
And The Rock will probably come up with something like potentially equally as lame for Seth as well.
Demon Seth.
Yeah, you know, because I don't know if I've said this before, probably have, but like, I haven't liked The Rock's shtick for a while. Like,
oh no, The Rock has sucked in WWE since the Cena feud.
But so like that'd be like saying, announcing to the world, "Hey, I don't like Tom Green's humor now." I mean,
I never really liked Tom Green.
I'm sure you didn't, but like The Rock, he's still coming off like 2001 frat boy. And here's a small thing, but he's doing the 99 corporate gimmick, and everybody's so desperate to call him like 2003 Rock. And no, his shit's lame, but his shit's always been lame because everything, even in the 2000s, was, "Hey Rock, I hate you." Pee pee poo poo, and it's like, stop.
Like, it doesn't get a reaction from me when The Rock says, "Shut your bitch ass up," or something like that. It's like, okay, you called him a bitch. Is that it?
But it was just say the thing, bot type.
Yeah,
yeah, that's that.
I just want to hear him. Just want to hear him call someone a bitch. Tell him to know your role. Stick this some bitch sideways and stick it up your candy ass. That's what they just want to hear these days.
But that's why I get really annoyed when The Rock is like, "Enjoy that I'm gonna be a heel." I don't know why I'm doing like a Triple H. That's not The Rock, but you know.
Triple H always enjoy it. That's what Triple H always say. So I'm way more over as a heel. Like,
yeah,
I might be top babyface and top heel at the same time.
Rob's like, let me do my Rock impression. Rest in peace.
I don't know what that was. No, but I don't know. I never liked his humor. That was never my thing, and I just hate that he's like, "I'm a heel for you now. Cheer me anyway." Shut up.
For that matter, too, a lot of that stuff, you know, it's across the board. When somebody gets into the trap of being typecast and they just do their bit, we just talk
like
about John Cena. Yeah, you know, how many John Cena things are him being like, rumple flabbergast or something like that, and you're like, God, okay, I get it. You didn't want to say fuck, but like, yeah, when the comedians do their Adam Sandler things, or him just being shabba-da-doo and stuff. Yeah, the Rock thing, I've said before, Rock being like the only focal point was one of the things that made me not want to watch wrestling for a while. And when he does this promo tonight, it's going to go long. They've got Orton, Owens, Theory, and Waller in a tag match. They've got the Karrion Kross and Bobby Lashley thing, and they got something for Logan Paul, probably a promo. It's probably going to be 2 hours worth of predominantly just talking again, and I'm going to skip through this episode quite a bit, I'm assuming.
I mean, you think it's going to be bad now? Wait until next week with Wrestle Votes.
Sing a long time with The Rock.
That it's gonna, then we're gonna have a rock concert again.
Which I don't remember the last one of those that I really liked. But that's also more of a babyface thing. But he just can't help to do that again. So, yeah.
Well, he started it. To be fair, he started it as a heel.
What's the first one as a heel? I don't even remember.
Yeah, because you weren't watching.
Yeah, the first rock concert was in 2003. And he did it for
Yeah, I guess he would have been heel then. I thought he might have done that even when I was still watching, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Oh no, I think you may be thinking of the "This Is Your Life" thing, maybe.
No, in any case, the heel side of that, hopefully it is more of like a true heel thing, and it's not just Rock making everybody laugh and kind of undermining this whole thing.
Well, his game last week was make Solo break.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that with the whole, he's got a singing voice and whatever, and he's trying to hide his laughter. A lot of people, of course, thinking that The Rock's promo last week is another hint towards a turn between him and Roman with the whole acknowledge me thing. Could be. Maybe not. I don't know. He did do the yell again, so something to keep in mind. A lot of this week on Raw was just more like filler content. Jax, Becky Lynch, the whole DQ thing, and Liv Morgan. A lot of people thinking that Liv Morgan is going to be thrown into the mix, which I don't understand why that would necessarily happen.
I mean, at this point, I'm kind of getting worried. Why is the build to Rhea Becky
about Liv Morgan?
Yeah, and Nia too.
You think it's going to end up being a 4-way?
I would really hope not, Tony. I'd really hope it's a singles match, but it could be.
It wouldn't shock me if it became a 4-way so that they could do Rhea Becky at Backlash.
Why?
To just drag it out. But I don't want that to be the case, and I don't understand how they would get to that point either, because they would need to do some kind of like Becky decides to put up, you know, if you beat me in our match next week, Liv, then you can be added to the match or something stupid like that. But, you know, the Liv Morgan fans that are out there are just like dead set on like she's got to be included in here, and even though she's lost the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, she should somehow find her way in there and do that. Andrade had a pointless match against Apollo Crews.
What's wrong with that?
What do you mean?
Like, what's wrong with him having? He has to win. It's his first match back.
Yeah, but I mean, as soon as Apollo Crews comes out, you're like, oh, okay. The guy who can't get out of main event.
Yeah, when was the last time that we saw Apollo Crews do anything?
Never. We never saw him after they drafted him. They took him away from NXT where he was like main eventing shows to be like, yeah, we need you on main event again. Sorry, pal.
It's a shame after the NXT run was when he won the Intercontinental title for like however many months he held it for, wasn't it? He turned Nigerian for a bit.
Yeah, the IC title.
No, we're talking about the
before
NXT run he had last year.
Oh, before that. Oh, he was NXT last year. I have no idea. So.
Yeah, he was also main eventing the pay-per-views.
He'd be a great opponent to lose to Obafemi. Yeah, better way to use him. But we're going to get a what I'm calling the Gunther Gauntlet next week, where Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bronson Reed, JD McDonough, and who was the other one? Ricochet are all going to have this gauntlet match to determine who fights Gunther, which I am fully expecting. Chad Gable starts it, works his way through, gets taken out by a heel like Bronson Reed. Sami Zayn wins. Overall, at the end, probably beats Reed and then beats Nakamura. And yeah, not my favorite scenario of what's happening with Gunther, just to set up like, here's a bunch of people that failed already. Let's give them another chance and then do a match that's not as big as the Brock one. But hey, they didn't plan on the Brock thing happening. So I'm going Sami Zayn's probably winning that. You guys have any other altering opinions?
No, I think it'll be Sami Zayn. If it's Gable, I think that'd be a fantastic swerve, but I think it's Sami.
I think it's going to end with Zayn versus Chad Gable. And then I think Imperium's going to take both of them out and it's going to be a triple threat at WrestleMania.
It feels like such a step down for Sami. But
it's already a step down for Sami Zayn. They've completely dropped the ball with Sami Zayn after last year's build to WrestleMania. So, yeah, unfortunately, anything that he does now at WrestleMania is going to be a step down.
That's a step down for Gunther, too.
Well, yeah, good. If it's just there to just hold the title.
If it's just a one-on-one, that's great. But if you add Gable, that adds a new element of like, oh, this is great for Gable because this is a major step up. But Sami Zayn could have been fighting Seth Rollins.
It's not really a step up for Gable because this is just what Gable was doing 4 months ago before they dropped that story and then just doing something different.
I mean, in the overall eyes of like, if you're not watching in the week-to-week TV. Just Mania to Mania.
Mm. Well, yeah. Well, unfortunately, like the only way you can have a step up for Sami Zayn is that he main events and wins the world title at Mania. Because last year he main evented and won the tag titles. So So unless he main events again and wins a bigger title than the tag titles, then it's always going to be a step down for him this year.
I mean, for that matter, we don't know what's happening with Kevin Owens either. I still think that we're probably going to get a multi-man ladder match for the U.S. title, and it's probably going to include Waller, Theory, Orton, Owens, and
You're putting Orton with that back in a ladder match.
I think there's a chance.
Well, he's just going off the fact that like Orton was fighting Theory last week. He and Owens are fighting a 10 Down Under tonight. I think that's what Tony's basing his thing on.
Mm-hmm. They're continuing to keep all these people all involved. So I think that there's probably going to be a 5-way. Maybe even a 6-way if they throw another person in there. But I don't know who that 6th person would be. Maybe Sheamus or something. I don't know. Tag titles for the women too, of course. This week it's like all the women's tag teams were basically just like, hey, remember us? And a couple of them were like, we're all a bunch of fucking losers. And it was like, yeah, you are. Holy shit. Like Candice LeRae's like, God damn, I'm sick of losing. And Maxine's there and she's like, yeah, it's a shame when we lose. And she's like, shut up, Maxine. And Natty's like, I'm a bitch to Tegan. And Tegan's like, well, fuck you then. Like, it's just, this is a mess right now. But they're just setting up what's going to be a multi-women thing, I think. And Jade and Bianca are going to win those belts. And I guess we'll probably get more development of that tonight on SmackDown. Maybe some kind of backstage segment is mostly what they can do, unless it gets cut because the Rock goes on too long. Anything else that's happening in Raw and SmackDown and stuff? I don't think so. Let's round this out in NXT. I think we double check again real quick. Santos Escobar lost to Carlito, and yeah, all right. So NXT Roadblock happened, and that has a lot of it that we can skip over as well too. But they set up some stuff for Stand and Deliver. They had that Asylum match. Dijak beat Joe Gacy. I was surprised about that. I thought that this was going to be a Joe Gacy win. But Gacy just seems like he's just going to sit out, I'm assuming, because Dijak, they give me the vibe more that Dijak's going to fight Oba Femi. They had a little backstage thing where Femi is going to fight Brooks Jensen next week. So Jensen talked to Josh Briggs. Briggs wished him good luck. Said something along the lines of like, good luck, brother, or whatever. And then Dijak came over and he's like, you call him a brother, but you're lying to his face. That guy's a dead man walking. So maybe we get a multi-man match for that too. Maybe it's Dijak and Femi. Maybe it's Briggs and Femi. I don't know. Sean Spears squashed Uriah Connors, who is Brogan Finley.
Yep. Very cool.
I hate his hair. First thing I noticed, I was just like, "What is this stupid haircut?" But to each their own. Wolf Dogs retained the tag titles over Chase U. We got some more of that push towards that Thea Hale and JC Jane split, where Thea Hale, I forget the impetus for it, but she fought with Kiana James and Izzy Dane backstage. Do you remember what triggered that?
No, they got called losers, didn't they?
Was that what it was? I blanking on what it was, but then Thea Hale's like, we're going to have a tag match next week. And JC Jane's like, no, I'm busy. So I am firmly in the idea that we're going to get some kind of Thea Hale, Fallon Henley, Ren Sinclair, maybe Kalani Jordan against Kiana James, Izzy Dame, JC Jane, Jasmine Nix. Either a 6-woman or an 8-woman tag match or something at Stand and Deliver. We're also apparently going to get Gigi Dolan getting like a makeover in some fashion with Ariana Grace. Because Ariana Grace, if she beats Gigi Dolan next week, she's going to teach her manners and coach her on beauty pageant etiquette and stuff. They love doing this kind of stuff. And that every time that they pitch that's what happens. Look at Fallon Henley and Tiffany Stratton and the whole, if Tiffany Stratton loses, she becomes a ranch hand. And so we're going to get Gigi Dolan beauty pageant protege going forward. That's a thing.
Yeah, but at least they're putting their women on TV.
Yeah. And it's more of a story than sometimes people get. Same as the Riley Osborne thing and all. Good story element here that took them long enough to get around to, but they are doing it in good fashion. We had been saying before, why isn't Luca Crucifino in the D'Angelo family? And it seemed like one of the most obvious things that they could do. Well, they came around to it, and now it is official. He is their consigliere, which is like, hey, cool. They're even giving him that role. Like, that makes sense. Shit. Somebody watched The Godfather, you know?
Yeah, perfect move. And
love it.
I think Tony D's going to win. I think I'll talk more about it later, but I think he's going to beat Dragunov.
I think so too. You know, he beat Carmelo Hayes and what you guys were leaning more towards. I was still thinking that it was a triple threat thing, but lo and behold, I'm totally wrong about that. We're going to get Carmelo Hayes against Trick Williams in just like a street fight or something.
And an unsanctioned street fight or whatever. Some
kind of gimmicky fight, you know, bitter rivalry feud thing. Tony D's fighting Ilya today. And he... oh, it still makes me fucking laugh. Dragunov's gonna fucking lose, and I think that we're seeing the motion towards a heel turn for Tony D.
Yeah, because the leader of the mob should never be babyface. It should never happen.
It's arguable. Look, there's worse things than the mob out there. I'll say that. I kind of have to contractually.
What do your uncles do again?
We don't, yeah, you know, let's put it this way. My grandpa was a captain in the police force and had a lot of interesting people pop up over parties. I know a couple guys. So I think that this is cool. And the switch over with Crucifino, and even though I'm not super duper like, man, the best match you could possibly go for is Tony D against Ilya Dragunov at Stand and Deliver. I'm more on board with this than I was a week ago. Now I'm kind of like, okay, cool. I'm down for Tony D winning that and being the Don of NXT and being a heel, and whoever beats him down the line, maybe it's somebody like a Josh Briggs type that I like, or maybe it's somebody else that they have in mind or something. Cool.
Yeah, I can't even think that far. But I do like the move.
I don't like the Sean Spears feud with Ridge Holland.
No, it's great. They're going to have a chairs match, the greatest match ever, at Stand and Deliver.
The whole embrace the hate type thing again. It makes no sense. Why is he like, yeah, screw you, Ridge Holland?
It doesn't have to make sense. They got Sean Spears.
And the what was the other thing that happened? Oh, the no catch clause, no quarter catch crew has the catch clause thing for the Heritage Cup. Any of them can defend the Heritage Cup. And then they had William Regal come out, and he said something along the lines, not verbatim, of the Heritage Cup means a lot to him, so he hopes that Dempsey defends that with like honor and integrity, you know, gives it what it deserves. And Dempsey said, I could do better than you do, old man. Fuck you. And I like that a lot better than what immediately followed, which was Noam Dar being catatonic and then just go, nah, never mind.
Well, they're on to bigger and better things. It's great.
What do you think that means?
Tag titles or main roster? You know, like you can't, yeah, they're poor young people, but like you can't do much else with them in NXT.
I mean, I guess that they are probably going to be incorporated into that tag team title tournament thing, where it's they haven't said how many people and how like the bracket's going to play out, but
yeah, they did. They put it in
a
digital. They put in a digital exclusive, but I can't recall off the top of my head. But I know that Ava did eventually say what it was going to be.
Let me try to see if I can find where that is, because I did not see that. Okay, so I see a picture at least. That's LWO versus OTM. Axiom and Nathan Fraser against No Quarter Catch Crew. Hank Walker and Tank Ledger against Gallows and Anderson, and then a triple threat leading to Stand and Deliver. That's not as interesting as I was hoping that it would be. So that kind of implies to me that it's going to be. I mean, I figured Gallows and Anderson would win and get that shot against Wolf Dogs, but I'm guessing that they go up against Axiom and Fraser and the LWO, maybe. So
either way, it's
no
Good
metaphor.
Brothers, Wolf Dogs at
yeah.
Yeah, but then I don't know what they're gonna do next, but it should be good no matter what it is because they're a great faction.
Oh, and Kabuki Warriors retain the tag titles over Lyra and Tatum, for anybody who's wondering about the tag team division when it comes to that front. And Roxanne Perez attacked Valkyria, injured her arm, so we're going to go with the submission victory at Stand and Deliver. Not my favorite thing either. I don't like this Roxanne heel turn.
But I do like the setup for it, that it's, no, you're going to live my life because a year ago I was stretched out of Roadblock and I haven't got my title back. You're going to see what it's like to be me.
Any of these story elements or whatever piquing your attention, your curiosity, Callum? Making you want to watch Stand and Deliver?
No, it all sounds awful.
I didn't think that it would be.
No, it's. I mean, again, just as an outside looking, it all sounds really, really bad. Like what? Like fucking like Thea Hale goes crazy because someone put an L sign on her head or called them a loser. Like, I don't know. Like, oh, the great thing is Luca Crucifino's joined the D'Angelo family.
We didn't say great. We said it's just, it makes sense. They're doing the right thing. Not to be a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not likely to tune in. I did see a few clips from NXT. I saw the moonsault that Dijak hit in the. I saw two things from that match. I saw the moonsault that he hit, which apparently wasn't even close to the finish of the match, which seems like a bit of a waste, and the and him getting punched by a boxing glove in the balls.
Yeah.
Because he opened a box that said "Do not open." And then the other thing I saw was it's Tatum Paxley getting aroused by Kairi Sane slapping her ass. It seemed like was that happening in the match? Like, is Kairi Sane just spanking herself towards Tatum Paxley, and then Tatum Paxley just crawls towards her? Like, okay, I know they're doing the whole pseudo lesbian angle thing with Tatum Paxley and Laura Valkyria, but now is you just like, is that just the story that she's just interested in any woman in front of her?
That's a lot more thought into that than I thought of. But no, I think they're just trying to make it more obvious. Because who knows when they're going to pay that off? Because it's Roxanne, Lyra, then Deliver, probably.
Well, yeah, I'd say so based on the way that you said that she attacked Lyra's arm afterwards. I presume that they're finally going to do the Roxanne match again.
Yeah, I highly doubt that Tatum's going to be like, a triple threat or anything.
Quite interesting that they I did see that they were doing they put out posters for they're doing these shows in Toronto soon, aren't they? Not Toronto, I can't remember exactly, but it's for NXT Heatwave in like
that's the weekend of Money in the Bank.
It is Toronto.
The weekend of Money in the Bank, yeah. And on the poster they've got, I know obviously these things could always be subject to change, but they have Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, Laura Valkyria, and Roxanne Perez, which gives me the assumption that none of them are going up prior to the Toronto shows. But maybe that's just because they're the big stars right now.
I think so.
But maybe it's an indication that none of them are going anywhere anytime soon.
I am expecting at this point Dragunov and Hayes are being Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. I don't know what triggered that. I think that Mello and Dragunov are probably going to come up to the main roster after this, but NXT Stand and Deliver is still a few weeks away. We will get into our predictions for that. That busy week where we toss out a bunch of different predictions, because we'll get into our ROH Supercard of Honor predictions. We'll get into the 2 nights of WrestleMania as well. Couple more weeks worth of material in the meantime, though. We are going to most likely do next week. Our plan was Mount Rushmore of the Samoan bloodline dynasty. And, there's probably going to be some secondary Mount Rushmore things that we do in there. We usually end up having instead of the 4 is just the only what we do. We usually do the 4 and we usually do offshoots. So we might end up having the Samoan tag team, Mount Rushmore, and I think we already know what those 4 would probably be anyway. We got a top rope list coming up of best WrestleMania moments around the 20th of March or so. We got that Hall of Lame episode of the Darkcast. We got Wrestling with the Past to talk about. So lots of content coming your way with a little bit of the variety rather than just purely talking about WrestleMania stuff. But I think that kind of rounds out the hot tags for this week. Is there anything else I'm forgetting about? I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Okie dokie. Well, as always, we want to know what you guys have to say. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're listening to the audio only streams, if you're on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, while it still exists, or anything along those lines, go to smarkoutmoment.com. You can see the pages for this kind of stuff. You could also see random other articles that are out there. I wrote a thing the other day about my pitch of Gallus needs to be paired up with Drew McIntyre and that they should have that be a stable going forward after he wins that belt at WrestleMania. Go back and check out the Superstar Scores Sting episode that we did earlier this week. Great main event. A lot of good discussion there. And make sure you're clicking around on all that other kind of social media type stuff. Go to Smark Out Moment on those. Go to fanboysanonymous.com. Check up that Discord. Make sure you're going to amangotree.com for the link tree stuff. Follow me at Tony Mango. Follow Robin Callum too.
Yep. Dutifully on everything. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. Check out Network on Fightful. And check out what Callum's got going on.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Wingmeister14. You can check out the power rankings every week on smarkoutmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars for their previous week's performances. And you can also find the Fantasy League over at Smark Out Moment and at WWEFantasyLeague.com to see how our teams are doing, who's picking up points in the lead up to WrestleMania. Only a few weeks to go now before we crown our season winner.
Alrighty, everybody. Well, hot tag 640 in the bag. Thank you, of course, for tuning in, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.